3, 2, 1, and we're back. Welcome back, guys, to a Grain of Salt podcast. I'm Ethan. This is Jackson. You know our thing. We like to talk unusual history that we've never heard of before, and we kind of keep our fingers crossed that you haven't either.
Today we're talking about the greatest thieves in history. These are guys who you can't help but root for and kind of respect the bravado, the silver ton, the guts to go for the glory and pull off that big score.
Honor among thieves, baby.
Yeah. And today we're talking about a 1600s heist by Thomas Blood, thieving the crown jewels. And you have...
Yeah, I'd just like to say I've definitely never heard of that before.
Thomas Blood and the crown jewels?
Exactly.
Yeah,
I've got
cool.
two stories, actually. I've got Poncho Villa, also known as Mexican Robin Hood, and also just the story of the Yakuza in Japan and kind of how they've brought their reputation back from being the most notorious crime family to being actually like kind of a symbol of good in the community and kind of able to help out.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not a storyline I've heard of, the Yakuza so far.
Yeah, a bit of a turnaround, but no, hopefully it's enough to change the reputation around their name a bit.
All right. Well, do you want to kick it off with a Mexican Robin Hood? Poncho
Yeah,
Villa?
I'll open with that. So yeah, Poncho Villa was born Jose Doroteo Arango Arambula. Probably butchered that, but we're just going to slide on past that. He was born in the 1850s, I believe, in Mexico. And at the age of 5, his father passed away, meaning that he would have to work at the local hacienda, similar to like a serfdom farm.
Okay.
The Mexican equivalent.
Right. So he's working on land that he's renting, and they give like a portion of their crops to the landowner. Right?
Yeah. So the interesting thing about the hacienda system was that it didn't necessarily have to be a farm. There was others that turned their living space into like a barracks.
Oh.
So it was really kind of like whatever the landowner wanted to do with the land. And
So like a military barracks.
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it was kind of just up to whatever the landowner really wanted to do with that space. But
Right.
because there was such a class division, they would always have the impoverished working on their land.
But Poncho Villa, he's working on a farm. Right?
Yeah, it's a farm.
Okay.
He's I don't know exactly what he's farming. Probably corn, I'm guessing, and grains and that. But regardless, super hardworking from a young age. He's getting up at like 3:00 every morning and walking 10 miles to this farm. At the age of like 15, big tragedy hits though, and his sister was actually raped back home. So he's away. And so a year later, at the age of 16, he decides to go back home and really avenge his sister. And he actually kills the man who raped her. And so that was what like started him on his life of crime.
So did he get arrested for that?
No, he goes into exile and he's in the Sierra Madre Mountains in northern Mexico.
Okay.
And he just like joins a group of bandits. They're all kind of just on the run. They're exiled. They're
So when's this? Is this what time period? Are we
it was about the 1860s.
In the 1860s, they said exile was your punishment at that point?
No, he was that was like not a punishment. That was like he took it on himself. That like I'm wanted. I need to
Get out.
Yeah, exactly.
Got ya.
Yeah.
Okay.
So self-imposed exile, I guess. He kind of just decided to.
It
get up
sounds
and
like
leave.
evading the law at this point, but
Yeah. Well, it's also I'd imagine it's probably to protect the rest of his family, right? Because he still has a sister that he's now kind of tarnished the name of by killing this man.
right.
So yeah, he's in the mountains with the bandits, and basically their daily routine is kind of stealing cattle, stealing horses, stealing gold and money from the richer people in Mexico, most notably like Chihuahua, Mexico, one of the bigger cities at the time.
Right. I'm still just evaluating him with this self-imposed exile. I mean, I kind of get it. Like, you kill someone, and if the cops come arrest you, he'll have to explain the whole situation. He'll have to explain the justification, and that could possibly tarnish his sister's name, right?
Oh yeah.
So to go to the mountains after doing that, after avenging yourself, there's a certain amount of courage to it.
For sure.
I mean, you killed a man, but
And at this time, Mexico does kind of, it's not quite a dictatorship, but because of the class division, to that point, the guy at the top, Carranza was his name, probably butchering that as well. But regardless, he's the guy at the top, and he's just ruthless dictator.
okay.
Like just in the way he rules, like military wise. There's a massive military presence. And so yeah, Poncho Villa, he goes to the mountains, and he's actually forced to join the military when he's kind of caught with his bandits. So he joins. Very short while he's actually in the military because he assaults an officer just in a small dispute.
Yeah.
Obviously, or at least what I would assume is he's just trying to get out of the military at that point.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he agrees with authority. I think I could get that happening.
Yeah. So, he goes back into exile and pretty much continues this life of crime, stealing from the rich. Eventually gets to the point where he's so confident and cocky with just how he's able to steal and kind of get away with it that he's riding through the streets of Chihuahua and just throwing money away to the poor.
Oh, so he's like a master thief.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's so ballsy with it, right? Because like there's military presence even in these towns, and just because he has the side of the poor with him, right, and just the masses, that if any time the military would come towards him, they would just kind of swarm the way.
Okay, yeah. I mean, if you throw money into the street, that's almost a great diversion.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Like people are running all around and trying to catch dollar bills.
Yeah, it's just anarchy.
Yeah, you could probably get away without the police getting hampered by everyone.
Yeah.
In the way.
So throughout the World War I years, Carranza's kind of receives more of a revolutionary vibe with the uprising that's occurring from the poor. Obviously, from people like Poncho Villa throwing money to them. They have kind of a significance and like a figure, a symbol to root behind and get behind. That continues up until about 1918, 1919, where the Mexican government just pays him off to just stop his life of crime. Just like go.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so they pay him off and he goes back to one of those haciendas and he buys one. And that's where this idea of like the army bear comes from, because he actually buys one and turns it into a barracks for all of the bandits up in the mountains that were all ex-cons, and that they all just join his hacienda, and that's kind of their place of refuge.
So like a thief's sanctuary.
Yeah,
almost. Pretty
much, but like disguised as like a barracks.
Okay, but still, I don't think I've ever heard of any government paying off a thief to just stop thieving.
Yeah, you got to be pretty good at what you do, right?
Yeah, like sneak level has to be like 100 at this point. Like
it's maxed.
Because how is he able to evade them so much that like it'd be an embarrassment for them?
Yeah. So regardless, he's unfortunately he only kind of lives this peaceful solitude life on the hacienda for a couple of years, and he's assassinated in 1923.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
So obviously the life of crime eventually catches up with you, even if it is kind of an honorable one.
Who do we think assassinated him?
My guess is just someone in the Mexican government or the military. Just that was still kind of revolutionary years, so there was so much just political chaos.
Right. So it was probably the state, though, right?
Yeah, that's the guess.
I mean, it speaks volumes that you call this guy's death or murder an assassination.
Yeah, right?
Once you get classified as an assassination, you've made it, baby.
Yeah, you're supposed to be a common thief and you get a political murder.
Yeah, I think like if I were to get murdered, I would love, like, I hope it's called assassination.
That's the fame. That's all you want in life.
But that's fantastic. Government pays them off, and then they gotta go outside the law, outside the books, and just kill them.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's similar to the Russian situation that we had back in the first episode with the
right. Yeah, you weren't sure who killed Poklebkin.
Yeah, Poklebkin. Exactly.
But some people thought it was the Russian government.
Exactly.
Yeah. This seems a little more cut and dry though, where the government was embarrassed.
Yeah. Well, you had more just crime against the actual state. Like,
yeah. And after they pay him off, he now makes like a thieves' den. Which is almost like kind of a sign of disrespect at that point still, right?
Yeah.
They did that to get him out of the game, and now you're aiding and abetting other thieves.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. Like the whole hacienda system was just to benefit like the rich, right? And you're kind of just giving the people working for you kind of just a place to work. You're making minimum wage. So it was just really benefiting this whole class division.
You throw like a tavern on there.
And this guy who had made a whole life of crime just stealing from the rich just said, screw it, now I'm just going to take your system and just...
I'm gonna retire becoming the grand master of all thieves.
Yeah, I'm just gonna completely benefit everything that I've stood for throughout my whole life.
Because it's on private land, that is a sanctuary for other thieves. That's fantastic. That's so cool.
Yeah, he started out with a pretty admirable start to the crime. I mean, murder always kind of gonna have an asterisk next to it.
Sounds like the guy had it coming.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I love that. Also, if you compare it to the actual, like, the Robin Hood tale that everyone's familiar
it's
with,
exactly the same.
almost. But he came from the lower class, whereas the Robin Hood that we grew up hearing stories of, he was rich.
Yeah.
He was like a duke or something.
Yeah, and he realized, like, nah, this is wrong. Like, I need to help out the other side. Whereas this guy really, like,
came from the bottom.
Yeah. Started from the bottom.
Now he's here.
Yep.
Getting assassinated.
Exactly.
Look at him.
Yeah, bringing it back. But yeah, that's Poncho Villa. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name again. The actual name.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I think you nailed it, honestly.
Yeah, Jose. That's all I got.
Poncho Villa, though, that's the legend. That's what lives on.
Exactly. So yeah, that's what I got for you for Mexican Robin Hood.
Awesome. Do you want to hear about Thomas Blood now?
Absolutely, I do. And the crown jewels, you said?
And the crown jewels. Yeah. Actually, more than the crown jewels, but you're gonna see why just the crown jewels were mentioned about halfway through the story.
Okay.
Anyway, let's jump into it. So we're talking late 1600s here. Late 17th century, Charles I is in power, but there's an English civil war going on. So about half of the MPs in Parliament want him out. And not only do they want him out, they want to prosecute him. They want to put him on trial. And the leader of them, Oliver Cromwell, is calling for Charles I's execution. So pretty turbulent right now. Thomas Blood fits into this as an Irishman, working for Charles I as an informant. And this doesn't last very long. About halfway through the English Civil War, he kind of sees the tide starting to shift here. So he sees that Oliver Cromwell's going to probably be successful here. So he switches sides, he double crosses, and he goes against Charles I as a spy and informant. And obviously, he's in a very opportune spot for this.
I feel like this happens like 1,000 times in British history in terms of the monarchy. Just every assistant to the king or queen ever has just always tried to double cross. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you gotta be careful who you're with, and like, if you promise them everything as an employer.
Oh
right?
yeah.
But as soon as you lose your power, you can't promise them anything. So the next person in power is
as soon as they stop fearing you or loving you, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
That's it.
Anyway, so he deserts the royalist cause, and this is in 1949. Charles I is executed. So the deed is done. Blood is rewarded with lucrative estates in Dublin, and things are going great for him. He looks like he made the career. He made it. He can now rent out this land. He's gonna be good for the rest of his life.
There you go. You're just bringing it back.
He's out of the game, And then, unfortunately, Charles II comes back in power. Unfortunately for Thomas Blood.
Mm-hmm.
Charles II comes back in power in 1660, so 11 years later. Charles II regains power, and, well, he takes back all the land that Thomas Blood had earned. So he's now has no money. He's in debt. He's wanted man, partially, not really like a big name at this point, but he's having trouble finding work.
I mean, he was killing it for like 11 years. An Irishman in England, he had no business doing that in the first place. He was living the dream for a bit.
Well, I don't know. Those countries have been a little back and forth for a while now. But as far as the English Civil War, he's ticked off. He wants his stuff back. So he starts getting in all these assassination plots to kill the king.
Mm-hmm.
And well, we might actually hear
again, I guess. Yeah. Another assassination.
This is an assassination, though. This isn't let's take over, prosecute, and behead him. Yeah, like it was Charles I. This is assassination attempts. None of which obviously succeed.
Mm-hmm.
But then he attempts to kidnap the Duke of Ormond. The Duke of Ormond. This fails, and this thrusts him into the spotlight as a criminal. There's a 1,000-pound bounty on his head, and now he's actually in hot water. But he doesn't leave England. Thomas Blood will not leave. Instead, he continues practicing law, or not law. He practices as a doctor under a different name. In England, so right under everyone's noses, despite the 1,000-pound bounty over his head. So
I gotta say, I'm not rooting for this guy yet. He's kind of shooting 0 for 3 on his attempted crimes. He's got a bounty on his name with not really much to show for it.
And he's flip-flopping. He's a double crosser. He's going with whatever side benefits him. No, he doesn't seem
not
like
much honor here yet.
Thomas Blood's a cool name, and that's all he's got going for him right now as far as the narrative goes. But in 1971, for 1970, or sorry, did I say 1670?
There we go.
Yeah,
okay.
300 years before.
Okay.
So 1670, he's practicing as a doctor in England, and everyone's wondering, why are you still in England? But in 1671, he makes it clear when he pays Talbot Edward for a viewing of the crown jewels. Talbot Edward lived in the London Tower, where the jewels, crown jewels, golden scepter, all these like great artifacts were kept.
Mm-hmm. I've seen them actually.
Have you?
Yeah, when I went to England, a couple years ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Tower of London. Yeah.
Oh, and
they're still there.
They didn't say anything about the theft.
Not that I remember. No.
Okay.
But I mean, like the big crime that everyone focuses on there is like Henry VIII. He's like beheaded everyone.
Yeah.
In the building.
Yeah, you also probably don't want to brag that, your stuff was...
Yeah, exactly. Look how terrible our security is.
All these things are owned by the state, owned by the royal family, public property. And Talbot Edward is kind of the guardian, the keeper of them. So he lives in the tower, and he's able to supplement his income by getting people to pay him for viewings. So what does Thomas Blood do? He pays for a viewing of these jewels. And... so this is kind of like his planning stage, right?
He's getting in.
He's casing the joint.
Yeah. He's doing a stakeout.
Yeah, and he goes in, and this is actually pretty ingenious because he goes into the Tower of London, and he goes with a female companion. And when they were looking at the jewels, she fakes a stomach ache. She's like, "Oh, it's really ailing me. I need medical attention." So Edward's wife escorts her upstairs and takes care of her and nurses her back to health, right? And they thank them. They leave. Nothing happens. But then this gives Thomas Blood the opportunity to thank them. And he gives a gift to the Edwards family. It's just like 4 pairs of white gloves for Mrs. Edwards. But this is like a token of gratitude that goes a long way because the two families become close.
Yeah.
And eventually Thomas Blood mentions that he has a nephew who's very wealthy that would be interested in possibly marrying Edward's daughter.
Okay.
So they see a lot to gain here.
Yeah.
And they're like, of course, let's get these guys together. Let's see if sparks really do fly.
Yeah, for sure.
So the nephew comes over. Thomas goes over with his lady companion that was previously mentioned, as well as another guy. And he's in robes, holy robes, because he's posing as a pastor right now. They know him as Pastor Thomas or Pastor Blood.
Okay.
And they acquaint the nephew and Edward's daughter, but they want to give him a little privacy. So Blood says, "Hey, why don't we go look at the jewels? Give them some time alone." So the 4 of them go down and check out the jewels, and in his holy robes, Blood is hiding a wooden mallet. And so when Edwards is going in to unlock the door, he takes a wooden mallet and bonks him on the head, knocking him out cold.
All right. It's kind of just inspiring every crime movie in like the next 300 years to come.
Basically, it's the first, it's Ocean's number 1.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
Or
Ocean's like 0.1.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the beta.
So the guy's knocked out on the floor.
Yeah.
You've all this time, because they're upstairs, they're fraternizing.
Yeah.
They're not concerned. So they have all this time to figure out something on how to like sneak out the jewels. So everything kind of goes under the robes and in the pockets pretty well. But then there's this one big golden scepter that's about, it's like a couple meters long. So like there's no way to really, stick this anywhere, right?
Yeah, no, that's like Gandalf's staff. Like you're just walking out flaunting that if you're getting it out.
Like how do you hide it?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
They try saw in half.
Oh my god.
So that's where like the criminal like mastermind kind of falls through because now you can still sell the gold. But you're taking the time to saw this scepter in half, which feels like you maybe could have done that a little better. Anyway, while they're doing this, Edwards wakes up and he just starts screaming, "Treason! Murder! Treason! Bloody murder!"
Oh my god.
And so this soldier, his son was a soldier, unexpectedly made a visit, just happened to be coming by, hears his father, runs downstairs and sees these guys. They push past him, run out the gates with actually a pretty good amount of jewels and stuff. Not the scepter, though. And
for obvious reasons.
They just make a beeline for the gates. And there's also like the Swedish engineer that also happened to be over following them along with the soldier son. And they're just chasing them at the gates. They try to steal a horse. They almost get on, but then this engineer takes down Thomas. And the police get there. They're arrested. And they got them.
All right. Well, like he almost got away.
He almost got away, right?
With half a scepter.
Yeah. And like that would have been amazing, right? But it's a fail. It's a failure.
Yeah.
But he's screwed now, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
You'd think. But instead, when the police, his jailers are interrogating him, he constantly insists that he will speak to no one but Charles II, the king, directly. And you'd think that would go nowhere, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. It's like me getting arrested by the Canadian police and say, I will not say a word until I talk to Justin Trudeau. It's like, well, you stole some things. We caught you. We have everything against you.
No, I want to see not my lawyer, but the king.
Yeah, this isn't working. Yeah, I didn't ask for a lawyer.
Yeah.
Right for the king. Charles II had a bit of a reputation at this point for liking bold scoundrels and thieves.
Oh no. Where's this going?
So he goes to the court. And keep in mind, like, this is Charles II's stuff, basically.
Yeah.
Because he's like the king. And someone tried to rob him.
And like his best stuff. Like those are like the like prized possessions to have in England.
Right. And so they get in front of his court and they actually get a word alone. So we actually don't know what was really said here other than kind of what Thomas told everyone once he got out. But he basically told the king, oh my gosh, I admire you so much. He even admitted that he was part of like assassination attempts on the king's life. He was like, oh, I remembered I had a musket pointed at you while you were bathing. I was in such awe of your majesty that I just could not pull the trigger. And obviously trying to butter him up and flatter him, but also just telling stories about all his double crossing and his evading police and, you know, the storied life he's had. Yeah. And Charles II is thrilled. He's like, this is such a cool dude.
Oh no. Oh my God.
So he pardons him for everything. He actually asked him, like, what would you do if I pardoned you? Or if I spared your life, what would you do? And Thomas Blood replies, I would endeavor to make it worth it. Just a really cool line there, right? He actually had a bit of a 4-line stanza poem that he recited, and it's really nice. But I won't get into that. Point is, Charles II pardons this guy totally. He doesn't just pardon him, though. He also gives him a whole bunch of land.
What?
A whole bunch of land that is actually already being rented out for £500 a year. So he doesn't even have to find, you know, serfdom tenants or people to take care of land. It's already there. So he has this huge estate that brings out 500, like the £5,000 a year. It's already bringing huge estate. And just because he
wrote the king a love letter,
basically, because he broed down with him.
It's like, I've almost shot you in the back of the head, but you looked good, so I didn't.
So he's pardoned and he's happy. He gets his land back that was initially taken from him by Charles II. Yeah. And he lives happily ever after. I mean, he does die, I think, like 10 years later. But you know.
Just surrounded by cash and women, probably.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, like, the guy was super cool.
Yeah,
right?
No, that's...
And the descriptions of this guy are awesome because, like, people, like, describe his face and they're like, oh, he always had this villainous, mischievous face to him. And that's like a really famous quote that, like, 2 or 3 people said about him. And it's pretty incredible, right?
Damn, that is awesome.
Yeah.
This guy made such a presence in like the British monarchy that like he's not even infamous as a criminal. He's just famous.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the whole way up, like you're thinking, like I'm not really rooting for this guy. He's not doing a good job with this robbery.
He's shooting 0 for 3. He's tried to assassinate the king.
He's
with
flip
no luck.
flopping sides. He's just going with whatever. He doesn't have a code, But to just sweet talk the king that much, to get pardoned and then land off him free, nuts. Some people actually think that Charles II organized this.
Oh, really?
They employed Thomas Blood to essentially steal this, and some of the jewels went missing afterward. So he could then pocket the jewels and their worth, right? Charles II. And then he could just buy back more stuff with public money, like with public funds.
Okay.
So it was like a little bit of a scam done with Charles II. That's like a theory, and people say it's a likely theory. I don't believe it.
It's an unlikely theory?
No, people say it's likely. Like
really?
A lot of people do believe this. There's nothing really to prove it, but like a lot of authors I was reading, they use the word likely in front of this theory. And I don't like that. I don't think, from the facts that I've read, I'm not, Charles II is so rich already.
Well, yeah,
he
also
cares about this.
It doesn't make him look good. Like this whole story, he's like, oh, a criminal can kind of just butter me up and then I'll just let them off scot-free. Even if he's getting any like monetary gain out of it, it's kind of just doesn't seem like a pro for him.
And he's King Charles II. You think he's like really interested in, using public funds to buy more riches? Like, so I don't like that theory. I really think that Thomas Blood just had a silver tongue. And, the best one around, and that's why he got where he was.
I'm noticing a theme that like whether we want to actually like root for these thieves or these criminals or not, we're also just totally rooting against the state. Sure, they did okay by committing all these crimes, but mostly the real bad guy is the government.
As long as they make establishment look bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. No, that's awesome though. I've definitely never heard that story. That's I'm cool. Surprised. I've known that the crown jewels have been stolen a couple of times. But that is probably the best one.
It is the best one, yeah. I looked through all of them. That was definitely my favorite. And that's why I brought it here today. Yakuza. They have a redeeming story arc or something like that?
Yeah. So it's not exactly like thieves like in like one particular like attempted robbery or crime, because the Yakuza are like such a significant crime organization that they're involved with that activity all the time.
Right. So like gambling, racketeering.
Yeah. Money laundering, prostitution, even extortion, just like a bunch of.
And they're like widespread, right? Like they're all over Japan.
Yeah, throughout Japan and reaching into China a little bit as well.
Like one of the biggest organizations ever.
Yeah, in Asia, they're probably like the organization for like petty crime. And so they were formed in Japan somewhere between 1603 and 1868. That's such a huge time gap. But because it was small families that kind of organized together, you don't know exactly like when they started calling themselves the Yakuza.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're like forming alliances. You're getting in contact with different people.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Growing. You don't even know what it is until it is what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of just like the Tokugawa era is like the family that was in charge at that time. So that's kind of just somewhere in that period is when they were established. But the specific event that I was really focused on was the 2011 earthquake and tsunami in Japan. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, like a nuclear reactor overloaded, right? And nuclear waste went into the ocean.
No, that was a different event.
That wasn't the 2011 one?
No, that was around then. But I think that was after the actual tsunami, or maybe the tsunami hit the reactor.
I think the tsunami hit the reactor.
Okay, because there was an earthquake. Regardless,
it might have been an earthquake. Yeah, actually, you might be right.
Yeah, earthquake triggered a tsunami. Tsunami started flooding all of Japan. There's an estimated like 300,000 people that were pretty much just like SOL. Like they literally like they had no support for them. They were kind of just left to die. And so the Yakuza were actually the first people to give support to.
What does SOL mean?
Oh, sorry. Shit out of luck. Yeah.
Okay.
For lack of a better term.
There's SOS and then there's SOL.
Yeah,
and
they
don't
were just
want to
like
be SOL.
They just didn't have any support for them at all. Like they were pretty much like just left to die by the Japanese government. And so at that point, the Yakuza were actually the first to provide any form of support on the ground to the people of Japan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So they put in an estimated $500,000 worth of food, water and medicine and just like shipped it in just with their like vans that they just have by their families.
Right.
And so basically they saved an estimated 300,000 people in 2011. And they actually did the same thing in 1995 during the Kobe earthquake, which is another Japanese city that was hit by an earthquake. And so a lot of people are actually, they think it's kind of practical that the Yakuza just saw like an in for exploitation of the government more.
Okay.
Just as if the government ever came after them, then they could be like, oh, well, we supported the people of Japan when you couldn't.
Right.
And so they'd kind of seen like as that wasn't their true intent, was to
I could see where
good to the
maybe
community.
people would want to say that, but you know, these are people.
Yeah.
They see their community in need, and they jumped in. You know, it was a collection of, you know, actual people. It wasn't an evil crime organization.
Exactly.
People with hearts. So.
Mm-hmm. And actually, I looked up the crime statistics for Japan after this because I was kind of curious if it was following like a bigger theme of the Yakuza not really committing significant crimes anymore. And apparently for the past 20 years, crime has just been on the decline in Japan.
Oh, yeah?
Like more significant, like violent crimes and that. So really, I think maybe it is actually just the Yakuza kind of clearing up their name a little bit.
Yeah, I'm a little tentative.
Yeah, obviously not like the whole umbrella name of the Yakuza, but at least in certain Japanese cities when there's natural disasters, they're able to provide some sort of community support.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So yeah, pretty much that's what I got for that story anyway.
Yeah, that is I mean, like, I could definitely see why people would say, oh, they're just doing this to get some leniency from the government. And then if you want to take it further, oh, crime's going down. Well, maybe, you know, the government's not pursuing them as much out of gratitude. But I think if you're thinking declining crime for violent crimes, I mean, technology is just getting better.
Yeah.
Right? Policing is just getting better. And I think you attribute that to that. And I mean, the Yakuza, like, as a crime organization, has been around for, I guess now we know, centuries.
Yeah, like 250 years.
So I think they're rich enough where, you know, they don't really have to partake in illegal, or the people at the top at least don't have to partake in this illegal activity as much as, you know, you'd think. Yeah,
and what's interesting actually is that, like, obviously it is like a family organization, and so like the Yakuza reputation just gets passed on from generation to generation. But apparently in Japan, 22% of crime is actually committed by elders.
Elders?
Yeah, people over the age of 70.
22%, eh?
Yeah, which is like a significant chunk. Like, obviously, like, that probably makes up a large portion of your population.
Yeah, but 22% is not that big, right?
I don't know. I can't imagine there's many people here in Canada, just like, there's many 70-year-olds just out, like, committing, like, theft and murder and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you knew 22, like, if, that is a good point, actually.
Yeah,
22%
and so
of all crime. Oof.
Yeah, and so if crime's on the decline, but they're representing 22% of that crime, then that's a significant chunk.
Yeah, what do you think the mentality is behind that? Like, if you're committing a crime at like 70, is it just like,
you just don't care anymore? I think
I only have like 30 years left, so maybe some things are worth you know, stealing.
One life sentence is like actually a life sentence.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like a life sentence kind of carries less value the older you get, right?
Exactly. But either way, I just thought it was interesting that the Yakuza have kind of shifted it a bit, or at least attempted to in terms of their image. So another thief where we're kind of like, the state didn't do anything, you guys suck. But
they got there before the state, and the fact that they could organize before the state speaks volumes for their efficiency and their motivation. Yeah. So that is incredible. And I assume they weren't going in with like helicopters and rescuing people off roofs.
No, it was more like just on the ground support, like in terms of vans. I think they had boats as well, just because of the flooding.
Yeah, and they're getting medical aid. They're getting food, water, the essentials. Yeah, 300,000 people.
Yeah,
they say
it's a big chunk.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I think I root for Poncho Villa a bit more.
Yeah, I think out of the three, I mean, Thomas Blood definitely has the most interesting story, I think, just in terms of just turning it around. There was a lot of flip-flopping in his story. He didn't really have that one constant trajectory where you were really rooting for him the whole time. Yeah. I think that for the Poncho Villa one, though, the fact that you said that the Mexican government was like a bit of a dictatorship, and, you know, they were so
in my eyes, incompetent that they couldn't arrest Poncho Villa, that they paid off a criminal to
Yeah.
just stop being a criminal.
Especially in a dictatorship where like usually the whole reputation is like our country is the best, and now you have this one guy who's just so against your image.
Yeah.
And he just becomes like
A symbol.
for
Yeah.
the people. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say that was easily my favorite story. I don't think I don't even think the Thomas Blood one compares to that one.
Well, we got some interesting ones regardless.
Yep.
But well, you guys will have to tell us if you know any more honorable thieves or criminals you really just can't help but root for because of their interesting stories.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, and tell all your friends about us. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Honestly, hit off those comments. I would love to do a part 2 of this. So yeah, see you later.
And just remember to take everything we say with a grain of salt.
Nice.
See you next time.